Last weekend, Doctor Who made an appearance at San Diego Comic-Con's Hall H panel. Here's everything that was announced. Okay, so like I just mentioned, Doctor Who appeared at San Diego Comic-Con last weekend, at Hall H and also other places, but this video is mostly going to be about Hall H and all the announcements made there. They announced the new spin-off, gave us a sneak peek at this year's Christmas special, Joy to the World, and announced a few other things about Season 2 and stuff like that. So I'm going to be going over all of that in this episode of the TARDIS Coffee Break podcast. Starting with all the details that were announced about the brand new spin-off, The War Between the Land and the Sea. This is obviously something we've been talking about for a while. It's been speculated for a while now, and we've known some details about it, but nothing was ever officially announced until San Diego Comic-Con. What we already knew about it was going to be something to do with the Sea Devils. We obviously knew the title, The War Between the Land and the Sea, although some people had speculated, including myself, that it could have just been a placeholder title, but we now know that is the official title. We knew it was going to be 5 episodes long, and we knew it was going to be directed by Dylan Holmes Williams, who directed 73 Yards and Dot and Bubble. But we now have a few more details about the kind of plot / synopsis of this spin-off, and also some more casting information about this spin-off. And we also know as well that not only is it going to be written by Russell T Davies, it's also going to be co-written by Pete McTeague, who's written a few episodes for Doctor Who in the past. I think it was Kablam and Praxeus, and he's also written some of like the box set stuff and some Tales of the TARDIS and stuff like that. Okay, so here we have the official press release from the Doctor Who website about the spin-off, The War Between the Land and the Sea. So I'm just going to kind of go through this and add some extra stuff that we know about it as I go through. So the main headline is Russell Tovey and Gugu Mbatha-Raw are leading this spin-off alongside Gemma Redgrave, obviously as Kate Stewart, and Alexander Devrient, who is Colonel Ibrahim, who's shown up since the 60th anniversary specials and was in like the finale of Doctor Who Season 1 and stuff like that. So obviously there's going to be a big focus on the unit team here. So it's basically, I assume, going to be the unit team against the Sea Devils pretty much. They did confirm at the panel that Russell Tovey and Gugu Mbatha-Raw are not playing the characters they've played before. Obviously Russell Tovey was Alonzo Frame in Voyage of the Damned, just kind of a one-off character. He did appear again at the end of Time Part 2, I believe, before the Doctor regenerates, but he's not going to be playing that character again. And Gugu Mbatha-Raw was also obviously Tish Jones, Martha Jones's sister previously, but like I said, Russell confirmed at the panel that these two actors are both going to be playing brand new characters for this show. I'd assume they would be playing other unit agents, and I believe they're the leads of this show, so that would make sense. But I've seen some people speculating that they could be playing Sea Devils, although I'm not entirely sure. Like, one or two of them could be playing Sea Devils, but I'm not entirely sure how likely that is, because I don't know if you'd cast these two actors and then put them under a load of prosthetics, especially if there's not a new redesign for the Sea Devils, because you're not going to be able to see the actors' faces under there if that's the case. But it's still entirely possible. So it also goes on to state that this is also going to be on Disney Plus, so it's not going to be like Tales of the TARDIS or Unleashed, where it's region locked to the UK, basically just being on the iPlayer. It's going to be like the main show itself, where it goes on BBC for the UK, and everywhere else it goes on Disney Plus, which is good to see, because it means it's just a lot bigger than some of the other smaller spin-offs we've had so far for the new era for the Whoniverse. This is like the first proper Whoniverse spin-off, basically. Like I said, it's going to be showrun and executive produced by Russell T Davies, and it's going to be written alongside Pete McTeague. And obviously, like I said as well, we know it's going to be a 5-part series, which I assume basically means it's going to be more like a mini-series, a one-off mini-series, I'd assume, instead of just like the new kind of Torchwood or Class type thing. Well, Class was only one series as well, but it was meant to be more, obviously. So I assume it's just going to be like a one-off mini-series, not like a new sort of unit spin-off where there's a new story every week or something like that. I assume it's going to be one self-contained story, basically, in 5 parts. And so there's a little bit of a synopsis here that says, when a fearsome and ancient species emerges from the ocean, dramatically revealing themselves to humanity, an international crisis is triggered. With the entire population at risk, units step into action as the land and sea wage war. With Russell T Davies saying, "I'm so lucky to work with such a magnificent cast, and this is a huge, muscular, thrilling drama which will shake the Whoniverse to its foundations. When the Doctor is not in town, the whole of humanity is in trouble." And obviously, Russell confirmed it was the Sea Devils at the panel. First of all, we know, like, it's basically going to be the Sea Devils wake up and kind of realize how badly the human race has been treating the ocean, pretty much. I'm guessing, like, with polluting it and stuff like that, which definitely makes sense with Pete McTeague writing. If you think back to his other episodes of Doctor Who, especially Praxeus, that's definitely very in character, I guess, for his kind of writing. So I assume they're going to wake up and be very angry at that, and Unit's going to have to deal with it. But it also mentions that this is kind of what Unit is like like when the Doctor isn't in town, which could kind of just mean like the Doctor's off busy doing his own adventures. But if you think back to 73 Yards, there is of course the line, the war between the land and the sea, at the start of 73 Yards. I think it was at the start or it was at the end. It was at one of the points where the Doctor was in it, but I believe it was the very opening of 73 Yards. He does say the line, the war between the land and the sea, which to me suggests there's going to be some sort of connection between this spin-off and 73 Yards. Not anything in terms of like answering the questions from 73 Yards or anything like that, but because of that connection there and the fact that it says the Doctor's not in town, I immediately thought and speculated that this could mean that this show, this mini-series, takes place in that alternate timeline where the Doctor isn't around in 73 Yards, especially when there's that one line with Kate Stewart in 73 Yards talking to Ruby about how they get on basically through the skin of their teeth without the Doctor being there. I'm assuming this could be one of those adventures that she's referring to, one of those crises that she's referring to in that moment with Ruby. That's just my personal speculation. It could just be, you know, in the main timeline and it's just that the Doctor's busy doing something else. That's entirely possible, and that's what I would have thought if it weren't for that connection to 73 Yards, but I do feel like there's a strong possibility this could be sort of in the 73 Yards timeline where the Doctor basically doesn't exist. So let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. Obviously, the reason this was announced at San Diego Comic-Con is because it's meant to be filming, I believe, next month, or it might have been September. So that's obviously going to be happening very soon. So I guess they just took this opportunity being at Comic-Con to announce it before they start filming publicly and stuff like that, instead of just kind of putting a press release out before filming begins like they've been doing previously. And them filming it very soon to me suggests that it's probably going to be released in between Doctor Who season 2 and 3. So it'll probably be airing some point late next year or something like that, I'd assume, but that's just speculation on my part. I think that's pretty much everything I need to say about the war between the land and the sea. I'm glad it's finally been officially announced and we don't have to speculate about it much longer. There's obviously still some things that people were hoping for with this. There was all that rumour about Martha Jones returning and maybe even Eve Miles, which I think is less likely now that we've had the official cast, but obviously there's going to be more cast members. But I think a lot of people assumed that Martha Jones and maybe Eve Miles as Gwen Cooper were going to be kind of the two leads in the unit team for this, which the casting of Russell Tovey and Gugu and Mbatha Raw kind of suggests that that's not the case anymore. So either that leak was wrong, or maybe they're just going to show up in a smaller capacity, a cameo role, something like that. But I think the chances are probably that leak was just made up. But let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. Okay, so another small thing that I just want to mention that happened not at the Hall H panel but at Comic-Con was people got a look at the brand new character options 15th Doctor Sonic Screwdriver, and the people that were there were able to buy it if they wanted to. I believe there were 1,000 units at Comic-Con that you could buy. So we've got a better look at what that's going to look like now. We've got some videos of the functionality and some details of a lot of the like mechanics and sound effects, and it looks like they've put a lot of effort into the functionality of this Sonic Screwdriver. There's a lot that you can do with it, a lot of moving parts, and for me personally, as one of the only people that actually likes the design of the Sonic Screwdriver, I'm very excited to get my hands on it. But it isn't like last year, I believe it would have been, with the 14th Doctor Sonic Screwdriver, where it was announced at Comic-Con, shown off at Comic-Con, and people were immediately able to order it. We've been told it's coming out, I believe, in I think September or October time. So the people that were there at Comic-Con were able to buy, you know, these 1,000 units, but the actual full release of this Sonic Screwdriver is going to be later on in the year, which is unfortunate, but you know, that's just the way it is. It would have been nice if it was actually released even earlier in time for season 1 airing or just after season 1 aired, but it is what it is, and I still can't wait to get my hands on it because, like I said, I'm one of the few people that actually really likes the design, and a lot of the mechanics and stuff that they've put into this Sonic Screwdriver makes it look really cool. It's also the electroplated, I believe it's called, design. So basically that chrome finish that the special edition, or whatever you call it, of the 14th Doctor's Sonic Screwdriver had before they released the standard edition with the normal grey plastic. So I assume they're going to do the same thing with that one here as well, where they get a normal retail version that has the grey plastic after they've done the like online exclusive chrome plated one. So let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. Will you be getting the 15th Doctor's Sonic Screwdriver? I know I certainly will, because like I said, I'm one of the only people that likes the design. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on that. So before I get on to the other major piece of news, the big thing that was shown off at Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con, which is obviously the preview clip of the Christmas special Joy to the World, I'm first going to talk a little bit about some details we got about Season 2. I'm only going to talk about a couple things here, but I think there were a lot more details said about it, hinting at like another somewhat musical episode and stuff like that, but I'm basically going to be talking about two major things here. The first one is that we know that Jonah Hauer-King has been officially announced to be being a cast member in Season 2, which is something we kind of already knew anyway. We've seen him during filming, people figured out who it was, and he appears to be playing Ruby Sunday's boyfriend or something like that. I can't remember if that was officially announced as well at the panel, but that's what we've kind of speculated from filming is who he's meant to be playing. So it's nice that that's now been officially announced. And another thing that was kind of rumored and speculated that's now been officially announced is the character name of Verada Sethu's brand new companion for Season 2. We've had a lot of people speculating from filming that they heard or overheard that her character is called Belinda, and that's now officially been confirmed at the panel. Her official name is Belinda Chandra. I know some people have made the connection there of Rani Chandra from Sarah Jane Adventures. I don't know how likely that's going to be that there's going to be a connection there. I think it's just a case of Russell T Davies liking reusing surnames and stuff like that. It's something that he's known to have done, but there's possibly a connection there. Let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. And I think this also somewhat confirms that this character is nothing to do with Verada Sethu's previous character that she played in Boom in Season 1. There's maybe going to be some sort of connection there or some line that explains why they look the same. I know Russell's done stuff like that in the past, but for me personally, I do think this is just a case of they really liked Verada's performance in Boom, and so they wanted to bring it back as a full-time companion. This also maybe does lend more credence to the idea that she could be a companion from the past. Obviously, if people have seen some filming images of her, there's mostly just her running around with the Doctor in kind of like a 50s kind of clothes and stuff like that in a 50s setting. That doesn't necessarily mean that she's a companion from the 50s, because obviously, especially in Season 1, they've been dressing in period appropriate outfits when they go to like the 50s or, you know, for example, the 60s in The Devil's Cord. So that could just be what that is. But the name Belinda does sound like it could be a name from like the 50s. So it's possible that that could be the case. They pretty much always have the companions be modern day now, especially with Russell. So I'm not sure how likely that will be, but obviously we do still have Ruby Sunday in Season 2 as well, so maybe they'll want to have a modern companion and companion from the past, which I do personally think would be very cool. And you know, if there is the connection there between Belinda Chandra and Rani Chandra, and she is from the past, maybe she's one of Rani's relatives from the past, like I guess like a grandparent or something like that. There's always the possibility there, but once again, I don't know how likely that will be. I think it's entirely possible and likely that she's just a brand new character with no relation to previous characters. But that's just a little bit of speculation there. I do personally hope though that she is a companion from the past. I think it'll be a more unique companion than the modern day companions from like London or whatever that we get more often than not now. So let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. What do you think of Verada Sethu's name? Do you think this companion is going to be somewhat related to either Rani Chandra or Verada Sethu's previous character Mundy Flynn from Boom? Or do you think there's at least going to be a line there that kind of explains that? Or do you think this is just a totally separate brand new companion? And do you think she's going to be a companion from like the 50s or something like that? Or do you think this is just a normal modern day companion? Okay, so now we get on to the other big bit of news besides obviously the war between the land and the sea. The news that came with a preview with it, which is probably makes it the biggest bit of news that we got, and that is obviously the news we've had about Joy to the World, the Christmas special this year. So obviously we've known for a while now that the Christmas special is going to be called Joy to the World. We've known that it's going to be written by Stephen Moffat instead of Russell T Davies, which is interesting because normally the Christmas specials are written by the showrunner. So that'll be exciting to see, especially with Stephen Moffat's Season 1 episode Boom being so good. I'm especially excited to see what he does with this one, and just because for me personally I think Moffat is a lot better at Christmas specials than RTD was, so that has me a little bit more excited for what this Christmas special is going to be like, especially after the Church on Ruby Road not being the best Christmas special ever. I'm hoping this one's a lot better. But we also obviously knew that Nicola Coughlan is how I believe you say her name. We know that she's going to be in this Christmas special. We knew that already as sort of, I assume, a one-off companion for this episode, which is a very common thing Russell did for Christmas specials as well. But we now know her character is going to be called Joy, which is obviously related to the title Joy to the World, and although she couldn't make it to Comic-Con herself, she did record a little video message that played before the preview that we got, where she basically introduces the character and announces that she's called Joy. And one more thing I should probably say before we get on to the preview clip itself is we've also known, I don't know if it was mentioned in the panel at all, but we've also known for a little while now that the director of this episode is, I believe his name was Alex Pillay, and he's directed like episodes of Bridgerton and stuff like that in the past. I don't believe he's directed any Doctor Who in the past. This is his first Doctor Who episode, but that's just one more detail we already knew about it before any of this other stuff was announced. So with all that being said, I think we should probably just get into the preview clip. I'll probably just kind of go through it a little bit on here and mention some stuff that's kind of shows up in it and potentially what this could be about, but honestly I've not got many ideas of what the story of this episode could be about. But this preview clip is a lot longer than I would have expected us to get. A lot of the preview clips we got for season 1 and stuff like that, and for the 60th anniversary specials were only very short, like minute-long clips. This one seems to be basically, I assume, the whole cold open of the episode. It's about 4 minutes long altogether, although that is including the brief introduction from Nicola Coughlan. But anyway, with that being said, let's get into the preview clip itself. Okay, so we open on the Queen's Hotel in Manchester in 1940 during World War II. I'm not personally sure if this is a real hotel in Manchester or not, but I love the shot of this in the outside of it all war-torn and the kind of explosions and the fog. I think it looks like a great visual effects shot. We see this character who I believe is called Basil. I'm not sure if he's going to be showing up outside of this one moment in the episode, but I remember when there was filming for this, a lot of people were for some reason thinking this was Patrick Stewart. It's very clearly not. I'm not sure if we know officially who the actor is or not yet, but it's definitely not Patrick Stewart. But yeah, I believe he's called Basil, and he might just be in this one kind of moment setting up the episode, but it's possible he'll show up again throughout, and these different locations might show up again throughout the episode. I'm not entirely sure.
And she's toasting a pumpkin latte.
So this is kind of the main theme of this scene, I guess you could call it. The Doctor basically keeps coming through these different doors, asking if anybody's ordered a ham and cheese toastie and a pumpkin latte. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to relate to the episode either, but that seems to be the common theme of this cold open or wherever this clip from the episode comes from. So he seems to be trying to deliver this cafe order, I guess, to somebody in particular.
No?
We also get, obviously, the 15th Doctor's theme throughout this scene as well, which I think is quite funny because it's quite an action-packed kind of musical score for something so not action-packed as delivering a ham and cheese toastie and a pumpkin latte.
Locked.
And then Basil goes to the door and tries to unlock it, and the door's locked, which seems to also be a bit of a common theme for this scene. It seems to be drawing attention to these doors in hotel rooms that are always locked, which for me is very reminiscent of something Moffat has always done, where he'll take something incredibly mundane as obviously like statues with the weeping angels, and in this case locked hotel doors, and kind of try and make them, I guess, kind of creepy or, you know, have something deeper behind them, which I think is going to be probably quite relevant to the episode itself, because this does happen again later on in the hotel room with Joy. So we then move on to the Orient Express in Italy in 1962. Obviously, the Orient Express we've seen somewhat before with the Mummy on the Orient Express. Obviously, that was a different kind of replica version in space, but this seems to be the actual Orient Express itself this time. We see somebody reading The Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie, which obviously is a reference to the fact that they're obviously on the Orient Express, but also a nice little reference to Agatha Christie, who's obviously shown up in Unicorn and the Wasp before.
Ham and cheese toastie and a pumpkin latte.
Who are you?
Wrong room. Never mind.
And of course, we once again get the Doctor coming in with the order of a ham and cheese toastie and a pumpkin latte. Once again, I guess, trying to find the right person who ordered it. We then get to the base camp at Everest in 1953, which I think was the first kind of trip up Everest, or the first team that made it to the top of Everest or something like that. I'm not entirely sure on that, but I'm assuming that's why this particular date at Everest is relevant.
Ham and cheese toastie and a pumpkin latte. Never mind.
And we obviously get the Doctor once again coming in, this time to the tent at the base camp with a ham and cheese toastie and a pumpkin latte. And then we finally get to the last location at Sandringham Hotel in London 2024. I assume on Christmas Day, maybe Christmas Eve, sometime around Christmas, which I assume is where most of this episode is probably going to take place. And we then get a shot that we'd seen during filming of Nicola Coughlan getting out of the taxi. Obviously, we now know her character is called Joy.
Oh, it's just that door, isn't it? There's always a door like that in a hotel room, a funny locked one.
So we obviously get another locked door in a hotel, and I believe Joy mentions there's always a door like that in a hotel, which further lends to the idea, in my opinion at least, that this is going to be quite important to the episode and one of those really mundane things that Moffat likes to make kind of extraordinary or linked to the sci-fi kind of nature of the episode.
Oh. Hello. Merry Christmas. I'm Joy. Welcome to my room.
We then get a moment of Joy seemingly talking to a fly in her hotel room. I'm not sure if this fly is going to be relevant to the episode and brought up again later on. It'd be weird to kind of mention it and it not be, but it's also probably possible that this is just to show kind of how lonely this character is, especially with her being in a hotel room by herself on Christmas or around Christmas. So it could just be that, or it could be relevant to the episode later on.
What?
We then get a Silurian entering the room, which we've not seen a Silurian in a while, so it's nice to see. I've seen a lot of people judging the prosthetics of this Silurian for some reason. A lot of them saying that for some reason the Silurians look worse, even with this big Disney budget, which I personally don't agree with. I wouldn't say they look better than when we've seen them before or anything, but I'd say they look about the same as the Silurians we've seen before in the modern era of the show, so I don't really know what people's criticism is there, and I've not seen someone say specifically what it is they think about the prosthetics look bad, so I'm not sure what that's about. But if you have any ideas, let me know in the comments down below, because I think they look fine, to be honest. Obviously they could have maybe upgraded the design a little bit if they wanted to, but I think it looks perfectly fine as it is. And for me personally, when I saw this actor playing this Silurian, he looked very familiar to me, and I couldn't quite figure out who it was, because obviously he's got all the prosthetics on top of him. But somebody has recently pointed out, I think I first saw it in a Who Culture video about this scene, that this is the actor who plays Anderson in Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss' show Sherlock, or their version of Sherlock. And as soon as somebody pointed that out to me, I could tell that's who I was kind of recognizing this as, basically. So yeah, this is definitely, at least in my opinion, Jonathan Arris, who plays Anderson in Sherlock. That's who I'm pretty sure this actor is underneath this Silurian makeup. But like I said, it's difficult to tell for sure because of the makeup, but I'm fairly certain that's who it is.
The starseed will bloom, and the flesh will rise.
And he says, the starseed will bloom and the flesh will rise. I don't know exactly what that's about. I don't know how relevant it's going to be to the episode. I also don't know for sure if the Silurians or this Silurian is actually going to be a major character in the episode, or if it's just kind of a one-off gag, but I assume he's going to be relevant to the episode, and maybe further Silurians will also show up in the episode. But he is also wearing a manager uniform, like a hotel manager uniform, so I assume he's going to have something to do with this hotel, or maybe a different like Silurian hotel that's connected in some way by these doors. I'm not entirely sure.
Ham and cheese toasty and a pumpkin latte.
And then, of course, we have the Doctor entering through that door again, the locked door, saying ham and cheese toasty and a pumpkin latte. And it seems like he's probably actually arrived where he's meant to be. Maybe this order's meant to be for Joy or something like that. But at the very least, he still seems happy to see Joy, or, you know, maybe he just knows that she's going to be companion material or something like that. And then we get the to be continued. I assume in the episode itself, that moment is going to be where the titles kick in, but I could be wrong. Because like I said, I assume this is like the whole pre-title sequence of the episode, but let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. But yeah, that is the whole preview clip of Joy to the World that we got at San Diego Comic-Con during the Hall H panel. Like I said, I'm not entirely sure any indication of what this gives of the actual story itself. I really don't know what the actual story is going to be. I do think those doors, those locked hotel room doors, are going to be relevant open, and there's probably going to be a lot of traveling between them throughout the episode. At least that's just my guess. We might be going back to those different locations we saw throughout that cold open, and obviously I think the Silurians are probably going to be relevant to this episode. I doubt it's just that one Silurian, but that's also possible. But yeah, let me know what you think this episode is going to be about in the comments down below, and let me know what you think about that preview clip. Did you enjoy it? Does it have you excited for the episode? And comment about your thoughts on anything else mentioned in this episode of the TARDIS Coffee Break podcast. And if you want to know my thoughts on every episode of Doctor Who Season 1 and my rankings of each episode, you can watch the video that's on screen now.